and welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and video show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, and experience from hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe so you won't miss a new episode. I'm your host, Frits Bussemaker, and today I'm delighted and privileged to have a conversation with Henk Kraaijenhof. Henk, welcome to the program.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Henk, you are a performance consultant, something we'll extensively talk about in the program. You've written a number of books on fitness, performance, sprint, and I'm talking about athletic sprint, health, body vibration, and nutrition and sports. So a lot to cover. You also have an athletic background yourself. You were a 400-meter runner, Dutch indoor champion, and you then became a trainer, coach in athletics. You trained world champions like Nelly Coman, and you also participated in the Olympic Games 5 times yourselves. So that is a bit of your background. I also know you are very vocal about your opinion, and you're educated in psychology. Have I missed anything?
Yeah, okay. That's about right. That's about right. Yeah.
Now, the main topic is performance. We're going to talk about performance.
Yeah.
Well, maybe the first question, because of the 40 years you've been doing what you're doing as a performance consultant, in a lot of cases, I see you as a coach. Is that right?
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. I started as an athlete, and out of dissatisfaction with what my coaches told me, I started to look for more information about coaching, about training. So I started to be a coach, did all the education programs within the Track and Field Federation here. And at a young age, I became already a national coach. Now, coaching in sports, especially in track and field, is relatively easy. It's relatively easy. It's mainly a physical thing. There's also, of course, a mental part, but you can never mentally compensate for what you're physically missing. Your mind can be very strong, but if you're a high jumper and you're only 5 foot tall, that's a limitation. You need to be tall in order to be a very good high jumper. You can never compensate it with mental factors. Later on, I became international coach, like you said. After 5 Olympics, I quit in 2004. And there I was with my knowledge and my experience about high-level sport. I used equipment to test athletes on a daily basis for stress and fatigue, but not coaching athletes anymore. I got stuck with this equipment. And so other people came and said, Henk, we are also mentally and physically at the edge what is possible at our limitations. Can you help us by testing us and advising us? And so I did. First, people from army, police, special forces, people like this. And later on, let me say, normal people like you and me.
Yeah.
We also have stress. We also suffer from fatigue sometimes. And well, especially I'm specialized in burnout, as they call it. That's at the end of the line, at the end of the rope. When you're tired, you take a little bit of a break and then you recover automatically. But when you're burnt out, you can wait for a long time until you completely recover. And it seems to be that burnout is on the rise internationally as a kind of an epidemic. So many percent of the working population suffers from fatigue during his or her active career during her job. And that number is increasing. It's doubling or tripling since 20 years now. So that's kind of shocking. So you ask yourself where it comes from. And like any intervention or therapy that you do, it's limited by the diagnosis. If the diagnosis is wrong or not adequate, then your therapy will not be optimal, will not be adequate as well. In this process, I could call myself a coach or a trainer in the physical part. That's the easy part. But I noticed it's a much wider field than just standing on the track and shouting faster, faster.
Oh, Henk,
It's about,
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm picking up three stories at the same time almost, which I'd like to cover bit by bit. You're
Uh-huh.
as an athletics coach, and
Yeah.
then transitioning to helping, I would say, I mean, they're almost semi-athletes as well, police, army, and then to, I'd say, the average Joe, which needs this.
Yeah.
If you may, can I, because I was actually triggered to a remark you made in the beginning is the coach you had did not, wasn't good enough. So
Yeah.
what was wrong? What was that coach not doing or doing wrong in your opinion? Which okay, I need to educate myself.
Well, it's still a problem. Most coaches depend on their own experience.
Yeah.
And many coaches, apart from coaches in soccer and golf and tennis, are amateurs. They do this besides their normal daily job. So they have the time to go to the track in the evening, coach some kids, but they don't have the time or the effort or probably even the money to educate themselves, to go to congresses, seminars, courses, to buy books, and so on and so on. And that was the problem because I knew there was a much more uh, a much wider field of knowledge in, for instance, the former Soviet Union, a lot of knowledge. But unfortunately, it was in Russian and it was a state secret. So, but I find ways to tap into that source of information because the Russian athletes at that time in the 1970s and 80s were dominating track and field, as a matter of fact, or in many sports. So there must be knowledge. So my task was to get that knowledge and apply it to my athletes. But then again, it widened the field about nutrition, about psychology, about biomechanics, about biochemistry, about many, many fields. So it became an integrated field for me to see what is limiting you from performing physically, like in sport, or mentally as a manager, as a CEO, as a soldier, as a doctor, and so on and so on.
Okay, got it. Um, so when I mean, you're taking a very holistic approach.
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely.
is that the norm these days, or is that still an exception?
It's still exceptional, unfortunately, because mainly because the knowledge in any field is so deep nowadays. You need a special, almost need a specialist, but a specialist has the setback of not having the overview, the helicopter view to see what is necessary. So if you're a nutritionist and you're working at a soccer club, the only thing you look at is nutrition.
Yeah.
If you look through the glasses of the nutritionist, so if a soccer player is not playing well in the last part of the game of the match, then first thing you look at is, did he eat enough? Did he eat the right things? You're not looking at psychology, at stress. You're not looking like a physiologist at maybe he's tired, maybe he's fatigued. And I look at all three possibilities, all three options. Maybe it could be nutrition, but it could as well be that he got stressed because, the opponents are stronger. It could as well be that he is not in a good physical condition. He didn't train very well. So I look at all the options and then I make a decision what field I will apply to this athlete in this case. And this is a simple case.
Yeah. No, okay, I got it. Also triggered by what you said, there's the mental condition helps, but the physical condition limits what you can or cannot do. So as
Yeah,
you if you're 5 feet, you're never going to jump a world record um,
in
uh,
high jump.
in a high jump.
No.
Could you turn that around? Because I'm not aware if that actually happens or not, but that you would just assess somebody, say, look, given your body characteristics,
Yeah.
you would be ideal in this sport.
Yes. Again, I take a holistic approach. I look at, for instance, we do DNA tests.
Yeah.
With a swab, and then we look at DNA, at some limiting factors. We look at muscle fibers. We took muscle biopsies, a little piece of muscle, see if they're fast muscles, like a sprinter, or slow muscles, like an endurance athlete. We look at things like at the brain. Are they left brain oriented, right brain? How is their personality? We do personality checks. We look at blood panels to see if they're how their biochemistry is, what well, if you have a car, you look at what kind of oil it needs, what kind of braking fluid, what kind of fuel is best for this car. So this is what we do. So same holistic approach in the diagnosis or analysis, and then you can find out in the end. You hope you find out because there's always in the end there's always an X factor that you cannot catch, as a matter of fact. And people always, thank God, will surprising you, and often in a positive way. Especially when they're under pressure, you see people perform like you never dreamt that they could do this. So that's of course fantastic when this
And you also,
happens.
yeah, and you also point out to me it's not just looking at somebody's physical appearance. There's also a lot of hidden features somebody has, which make them competitive in sport or not.
Yeah, there's always a compensation. I mean, it sounds contrary to what I say, but it's about the margin you have. So if the margin between mental and physical is like this big, you cannot compensate. But if it's like this, you always have people who can compensate a little bit with willpower, with motivation, with tremendous drive, with the ability to adapt to stress. But to this extent, not to this extent. This is obviously, and it would be better if, well, if you're short, you cannot compensate this. But if you're tall, don't forget. I always say there's a race, but people say, well, you cannot turn a donkey into a racehorse. Well, that's absolutely true.
Mhm.
But the actual races are not between donkey and racehorse. The actual races are between racehorses. And there you have fast ones and you have slow racehorses. So that's where the field you're working at, in the racehorses only, not with donkeys. And then you try to make the slow ones, you try to make them better. And of course, you make the fast ones even more, more faster,
Oh,
helping the best to get better. Yeah.
yeah. Now, the world you've lived in that international athletic community, going to the Olympics,
Yeah.
most people see this, recognizes from watching the news, seeing it on TV, watching the papers, maybe visiting the Olympics themselves.
Yeah.
Um, how glamorous or how boring is it once you're really in there?
Well, number one, people think it's a glamorous thing. I think it's most for jobs that seem glamorous on the outside, like being a movie star or a singer. It's just hard work. I remember my first Olympics in 1988. I came home and I lost 8 kilograms in body weight. Now, if you know my body size and my body type, you know where could he ever lose 8 kilograms of body weight? It took me 4 weeks to recover and not doing anything. It was that stressful. It's working day and night, getting frustrated by well, all kind of level of organization, the organization itself, by the federation. So that's most of the time that's the case. So it's a couple of weeks long, almost working well 20, 22 hours under high stress because you only got one chance in 4 years, and they don't wait. If your athlete gets sick the day before, they don't shift the program. They don't wait. So people work day and night, stress themselves, give up a lot of things for 4 to 6 years in order for that, in my case, 10 seconds of success. And so that makes it very stressful and you're under a lot of pressure. So sometimes you panic because the athlete is not in good shape or gets injured or get a cold a couple of days before. So what to do? So basically that's it. It's not as glamorous as people think. It's for sure not boring. Let me say that. There's always a
I understand.
challenge there.
I understand. Okay, so okay, I also actually now want to move on. So after doing that work with the athletics, you mentioned you then moved into applying the skills, applying the knowledge in a more business environment.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, what are the comparisons and what are the differences there?
Well, one of the people always ask this question because they say, what's the difference? Well, elite sports is easy because it's very predictable. We already know for the next Olympics when it is, at the minute exact. We know when it is. At the day, of course, the year 2028, at the day, the hour, the minute when the final of the 100 meters is. That's number one. We know already the rule of running 100 meters. It's only three simple rules. Don't start before the gun goes, stay between the white lines, and the one who's at the end, at the finish first, that's the winner. So it's very simple, but you know those rules for a long time. We already know almost who will be there and who will not be there based on the performances in the years before. So you got 4 years, you know the exact very end of the process. And you know what product should be living. You know how fast you have to run for a medal almost. It's very predictable. It's very, very easy, basically. Well, look at it from a business. This year, your business is flourishing, and for whatever reason, it could be any social, political, economic reason, your company is down. Look at the COVID, how it upset so many companies globally. How many companies had to close the door. How many people got laid off? So it's basically less predictable. The other thing is, an athlete only has to perform one time in his life or her life, and they can talk about it for the next 30 years. How many Olympic champions are still on television, are still stars, are still recognized for that, in my case, the 10 seconds that they have run 20 years ago, and everybody recognizes them. Well, look at it from a business point of view. Where do you go if one time you sign a good contract? Only one. You have to be there uh, every week, every day, basically. You cannot afford to lose for 1 year or to make a big loss. You cannot afford it. So the responsibility and the field of performance is at a completely different level. Ours is physical, one time, and well, a lot of gratification, a lot of reward. But a CEO or a lead manager has to work for many, many years and cannot afford to make one mistake because you're out. That's it. So that's the difference. And of course, for most athletes, their body is the tool they make their money with. For most people in the business community, their body is just an awkward limitation. It has to sleep. Well, that's a waste of time, isn't it? It has to eat, but okay, you want to have a good glass of wine sometimes. You need to pay attention to your family, but the weekends, where are the weekends going? It sometimes looks like the same obsession, especially at the very top. The elite is always kind of obsessed and ignoring things and have to say goodbye to a lot of things most of the time. They're almost as obsessed about their performances, about their product, about their final goal, their mission in life, like elite athletes. So that's the comparison there.
Okay. So when you do coach people in a business environment, the people you coach, are they themselves realizing they need coaching? Or is it somebody maybe in HR who said, no, I think you need a coach? What?
No, they don't basically realize it. It's more life lessons they learned, or they never looked at it from this point of view. But they kind of trust me or believe me because in athletics, you have measurable and tangible results. Medals and records don't lie. If you coach somebody, then you should know something. I mean, it doesn't come out of the blue. It comes from many years of hard work. So you start to understand some things, call it experience, call it wisdom collected throughout the years, things you do, things you don't. And these things can be generalized as well. In the end, there's not that much of a difference between the mind of a CEO and the mind of an athlete. They're all very motivated at the
Yeah.
expense of other things as well. So uh, I don't try to say, oh, this is a coaching session. This is not, I call it coaching, although they think they are coached like, I see them as elite athletes
Yeah.
with their limitations. And also, so I try to find out what is their limitation? What is the limitation? Most of the times, the limitation is their health, as a matter of fact.
Yeah. But
Most of the time, they're very well educated in the job they're doing. That's very well. Um, and don't forget, this is interesting. The athlete is training 12 times a week or 10 times a week. And the competition is maybe 20 competitions a year. And CEO is competing almost every day. And very little time for a seminar or to learn something new. So the time you spend with me, I try to not educate you. Some of them are older than I am, so almost as old. So I'm not trying to educate them, just try to give them a kind of subliminal message and give them an eye opener. Ask them the not the nasty questions, but unexpected questions.
Yeah, okay.
So they start to think about it.
Uh, I understand that. At the same time, you're also the blogger of helping the best get better.
Yeah.
And if I were a CEO or a company leader and someone would tell me, look, I'm going to give you the best coach because you are the best and I want to make you get better, even better than you really are. So that actually would be, I think, a very positive way to frame what coaching can do for you.
Mhm.
So it's because you're almost suggesting that you hide the fact that you're coaching because it might be perceived as, okay, you need help, you cannot do it without my help, so you're failing.
No, it's basically not because they already came this far.
Okay.
I tested some CEOs of global companies, Swiss companies, Dutch multinational companies, and as a matter of fact, when they tested them, they did very, very well. And why? Well, because it's Darwin, survival of the fittest. If they couldn't handle it, they wouldn't have fallen off the stairs already halfway. So only the strong survive basically there. And the interesting thing is they understand very well what I'm trying to tell them because we're in the same performance field. They understand also the role of a coach. They understand, even in sports, they understand that very well. That's why coaches are generally asked many times to speak or to give their lessons, to share their lessons that they learned in working with clubs or with teams or whatever. So yeah, that's a job that there's an overlap in also in thinking. They understand very well.
Yeah. Okay. Now, you've told me you've been doing this for almost 40 years, 16
Yeah,
hours a day.
yeah.
Is it possible for you to identify milestones in your life as an athlete, a coach, and a business coach? What are the top three key milestones for you?
Well, the first time was when I became national champion because uh, it's always great to challenge people and say, you cannot do this. That's an interesting one. Oh, he will never do anything. And then you prove them wrong because you became national champion. Nobody thought I would do this a couple of times even. And then you start to coach athletes and then basically the same story. People kind of neglected or discarded the athletes that they said, don't waste your time. Lazy, crazy, stupid, fat, won't never do anything. And 4 years later, in case this girl, she won the world record. Nobody in this planet ever run faster. I said, no, we're not going to invest money in it. I said, okay, give me a chance because she's different. So those are the milestones because it was not that anybody expected this. It was a big surprise, at least to the outside world, that things happen. See, okay, wow, he
Oh,
did it. We never expected him to do this.
hey, and the common denominator in both milestones, in one case, you were not expected to win, and in the second case, the other person was not expected to win.
Yeah.
Uh, is that significant? It's almost like promoting the underdog position?
Now, in athletics, we have a common enemy. It's gravity or time.
Yeah.
So the value for me of a medal is in the strength of your opponent. So if your opponents are all sick or something or are injured, then for me the medal has less value because it was kind of easy. But if everybody there is in top shape and not injured, then your value gets more medal and gets more value, and then your medal gets more value, even if it's the same gold medal. But the time is absolute. The world record means nobody ever runs so fast. And we look at the measurable times or distances, a long jump or in high jump. So that's for us the most important milestone. That medal, what's the value of the medal? The medal is like, okay, Where is the medal? Ask many athletes where they don't even know where that medal is.
Yeah.
That's interesting. They don't even in a shoebox somewhere or gave it to their kids. And also, the records. The records are broken by other people who are faster in time, and that's what records are for. And the medal is there forever, but it has less value. It was a snapshot in time. One day later, you might have won the silver medal or the bronze medal, and not even get the medal instead of the gold medal because the
So
conditions change.
that that brings me to another question we ask most people on our show is how do you define success? What does success mean? And what you just told me is that the physical metal in itself
Yeah,
is not success. So
yeah,
the
no.
what is the success?
Okay, what is the most important for me and also for my athletes is the fact that you made the impossible possible. Not for other people, but also for yourself, that you never thought you would kind of do this. And the fact that gives you this very strong bond between an athlete and a coach. At least in my case, I'm still in touch with almost all my athletes that I coached 20, 30, 40 years ago. That's unbelievable. Why? Because you went to high peaks and deep valleys. It's the emotional roller coaster that you're in together. That somehow creates an emotional bond between coaching, and that's to me valuable. The second one is um, to so number one is the bond, and number two is let me think. I had it on in my mind just a minute ago. Um, that oh yeah, potential, that you fulfilled your potential. To me, it's if a girl is now running 15 seconds in a 100 meter, which is very slow, but the very best you can do is 14, and it doesn't win you any medal or any competition ever. But I know this is the very best I squeezed out of this girl. No other coach could have made this girl run 14 seconds instead of 15. That's more valuable than a girl who is running 11 seconds and then running 10:9. It's great.
Yeah.
Or running 10:9 where I know she should have been running 10:6 in the 100 meters. So it's the ability to, for me, success is being able to squeeze the very best out of people in legal and sustainable way. I would never have an athlete that comes to me, Henk, great for the gold medal, but look, thanks to your training methods, I'm in a wheelchair now. No,
Yeah.
I could never handle that. So I am very, very, very careful with my athletes, and I know that. I take very care of their health, better than themselves, as a matter of fact. I'm not a very hard coach. As a matter of fact, my slogan is train as much as necessary, not as much as possible. Most athletes want to train too much, get injured, will have health problems later in their life, and that's something I'm not looking forward to. That's not the value of the medal. The value of the medal is to create happy and successful people, and not only happy with their health and healthy people as well.
Okay. And can you make the same statement also in the business world? You've
Yeah,
oh,
absolutely, absolutely. Because you see so many examples of people who suffer mentally and or physically in order to reach their goal, and in the end they regret
yeah.
having done this. They said, I wish and when they finish their career, they say, I wish I would have spent more time with my family. I wish I would have spent more time and effort to stay healthy. I wish, and so on and so on. So knowing that you're already working on that, so, my friend, you're old enough, wise enough, I wouldn't say, but you're old enough to realize that everything in life has a price. Are you willing to pay that price? Because when you continue like this, your health, your mental or physical health, in the end will suffer. Well, and then they're, I say, mature enough to say, yes, it doesn't matter to me. Okay, but then you also take responsibility for this. And there's people who are say, maybe all right, I should back off a little bit, take more care of my health and more care of my family and my friends, my social life and everything else around it. Enjoy life more than just working, working, working. And then they quit and then they got sick, and some of them don't even make it very far
Yeah.
or very long, as a matter of fact. That's something I don't appreciate.
This is actually a very nice segue to my last question for you, Henk, and that is, this is what you see with the seasoned CEOs, top
Yeah.
athletes. What would your advice be to those young people, young athletes, young managers out there who are just starting out?
Okay, always keep the big picture in mind. Keep the big picture. Always have a look. Well, number one, where are you now? Where are you going? And to start with, where do you come from? Where do you come from? What do you really want? Number two, don't forget to enjoy. Don't forget to enjoy. Whatever it's your work, it's work. It's not life. And some people tend to forget that. They confuse work and life, or they say, "Oh, I don't see it as work. It's my hobby." No, my friend, because hobby comes without responsibility. If you're playing flute or an instrument, after half an hour you can throw it away, but you can't walk out of a meeting whenever you want to. And the hobby costs money, and I hope your job will give you some money. So that it can never be a hobby. You can have fun at it, and the more fun you have, but there's a risk. There's also a risk in having fun. You tend to overdo it a little bit. That's also the people who burn out are very motivated, very driven people. As a matter of fact, they never take shortcuts. They never throw the towel in, and that's because they enjoy it so much. So there's also a risk. The key word is basically balance. Find the balance between mental and physical, between necessity and joy. A balance between where you come from and where you're going through, between your past and your future. It's the process is interesting as well as the product. It's not the product or the process. Without the product, but the same without the process, only looking at the product. So balance is the key in my key word in my work, as a matter of fact.
Hey, well, you've given us a balanced, you could say, overview of what you've done as an athletics coach, how that translates to business.
Yeah.
Henk, some very thoughtful lessons to share with the audience. I want to thank you so much for sharing your time on the brand called You. And yeah, if people are interested out there, we'll make certain that they will be able to find you. Thank you so much.
Okay, Fritz, thank you. And thank you for your interesting and challenging questions sometimes. It's never the same. It's never the same. And my answer is also never the same. So thank you once again.
You're welcome.
Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.